right, let's see. All right. Truman the Cosmic Peace and Noone Science War Times. This is your host, Vena Tarkina NUWAUPU, and I'm bearing the name of the planet of business, business and financial empires, known as Venus, the planet of love. And today is Friday, which is Vena's Day. And we're back with BIAE Interpretation, Book 2, Part 17. And that's my introduction. Can't hear you, Nibu. Still can't hear you. You was good a second ago. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. All right. Okay. True peace, kins and friends. I'm back at it again. Tonight. Yesterday I had a prior engagement. We got that straight. Happened. My sister cleaned out her house, so we got that done. But back on the night for banger, and yesterday I was told the shows was a banger. So I mean fire.
Mm-hmm.
Most, you know what I'm saying, for the most part, just straight blazes. But yeah, so I'm back tonight and I'm about to sit back and just get the information that comes out and hope you all are doing the same and taking in this good information that's needed to help break the spell of Leviathan. True peace.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, we are very thankful to have you back. You know, as the third panelist
Yeah.
on here, you
Yeah.
know, giving your insight. It's always welcome, and we are appreciative of that. Yes, so true peace to all kins and friends of the Ethiopian race in all the universes and sooniverses alike. I am a Bunu Nupu. I am a representative of Noone Science NUWAUPU, and that was given to us by the great messenger Afro Nupu. And I'm very thankful that I'm here to impart some of this vital knowledge to you all to help you all wake up from the spell of ignorance that Leviathan has placed upon us all. Leviathan is not a force to be messed with. It is a very serious force when it comes to the type of spells and curses that it imparts upon the original people of planet Earth, or the ones that bear the energy of the original energy that created the universe, is known as nine ether. So today we will be answering the question known what is NUWAUPU. Over time NUWAUPU has transformed into Noone, but the definitions do not change. The word change, but the definition does not change. NUWAUPU means knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And Noone also means knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, or the nature of one nature. All right. So, with that being said, we will get the party started. All right. All right. Here we go. Share screen. Oh, what did I just do? Is it? Wait. There we go. Am I doing what else? I apologize, y'all. There we go. All right. Is it? All right. Yeah. It's good now. All right. So this particular episode, we're gonna go paragraph by paragraph because the question, what is NUWAUPU? The answer is about 25 paragraphs from 104 to 129. So we're not going to read through all the paragraphs, then go back again to reread it again. So we're going to do paragraph by paragraph, and we're going to get a breakdown of each paragraph doing this particular presentation. So the first one is going to be about an hour. So we're only going to do about an hour of the of it. So wherever we are at an hour, we're going to stop and we're going to bring it back for tomorrow. I remember last night I was saying it would take a couple of days, but I ended up actually doing the entire presentation in a short period of time. So I didn't need a couple of days, just needed a couple hours. All right. So here we go. So the question is, what is NUWAUPU? Okay. Number 104. NUWAUPU is the science of sound right reason and its adherents. Oh, I also gotta always give credit to the digital bald-headed Noone known as ChatGPT, which helps us to track down and also give us some insight on mundane science of how we can find this information that Afro-Unu was researching at that particular point in time. And as you all know, there was no Chat GPT that existed in the time that Afro-Unu was doing this research. He had to go out there and do the work himself and find the research and put together this information. And the information is so layered that sometimes ChatGPT can't even find or reason on the level that Afro-Unu is reasoning on. So it goes to show you that sound right reasons at such a high level that sometimes the computer and other human beings alike are not able to reach the standard that sound right reason is able to reach. Okay. But as far as searching in the mundane sense of what we're looking for, ChatGPT does an amazing job in doing that. Sometimes it's incorrect, and you'll see me correct ChatGPT from time to time on what it's doing and what it's trying to impart as far as the information is concerned. Okay. So hold on, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, y'all. All right. So let's get this started. All right. So the question again is, what is NUWAUPU? NUWAUPU is the science of sound right reason, and its adherents are the sons and daughters of sound right reason. Belief is ignorance, and NUWAUPU is knowledge. If one has to believe, it means he or she does not know. And if one does not know, that is ignorance. Hence, belief is ignorance. The most deceptive word in religion is the word believe or belief, because a person can believe anything, and this means that a person can believe and be 100% wrong. But knowledge is knowing. Knowledge is correct information. To know gives one confidence, but belief infers doubt. Knowledge can be checked out by one or more of three tests: experience, evidence, or reason. Knowledge is always logical and it reasons out. NUWAUPU is right knowledge, which will pass anyone of the three tests that is practical for knowledge, for the knowledge given. One cannot always use the experience test because the experience test is not practical for all knowledge. The evidence and reason tests are those more often practical. Yet, NUWAUPU is the science of experience, evidence, and reason, because nine ether is the power of reason. Nine ether by nature is the male and female spirit forces of woolly haired people, and the scientific name of nine ether will be disclosed in the Ethiopian Science NUWAUPU when the minds of the woolly haired people capable of entering the new cycle have been qualified. Okay, so once again, like I told you before, we're going to use the artificial intelligence in order to track down information, make comparative analysis with mundane science within their database, and also help to give us a little bit of insight of the parallels that were being used within the science that we follow, known as NUWAUPU/Noone. Okay, so once again, here we go. Here's a paragraph by paragraph breakdown of 104 with a scientific, ancient, historic, and high reason lens, showing what each statement is really saying and how it parallels other knowledge systems. Core statement of 104. NUWAUPU is the science of sound right reason. Belief is ignorance. Knowledge is correct information tested by experience, evidence, or reason. Nine ether is the power of reason. Scientific breakdown: belief versus knowledge. In epistemology, the science of knowledge, belief is a mental state that may or may not correspond to reality. Knowledge is defined as justified true belief. Modern science similarly requires falsifiability and evidence rather than blind belief. Three tests: experience equals empiricism, data gained directly through sensory observation or experiment. Evidence equals verification, measurable, reproducible data that can be confirmed independently. And reason equals logic, the application of rational, deductive, or inducive reasoning to the data. This mirrors the scientific method: observe, experience, hypothesize, reason, and test. Evidence. Nine ether as reason. It describes a universal field of conscious gas whose expression in humans is the faculty of reason. Scientifically, this parallels how modern physics sees fields, electromagnetic, quantum, as invisible but structuring reality. Gas here could be seen as a metaphor or pervasive dynamic energy. Ancient historic parallels: Kemet/Egypt. The ancient Egyptians prized Ma'at, truth, justice, and balance, as the cosmic principle of right reason. The weighing of the heart in the Book of the Dead was literally a test of truthfulness and righteousness, parallel to NUWAUPU's sound right reason. Greek philosophy: the idea that knowledge equals justified true belief goes back to Plato, who contrasted episteme, knowledge, with doxa, opinion. Mystery schools: in African and Near Eastern mystery systems, initiates pass through tests of perception, experience, ritual phenomena, evidence, and logic, reason before they were admitted to higher teachings. NUWAUPU's 3 tests echo that initiatory structure. But I must say, before we move on, that NUWAUPU doesn't necessarily mirror these particular structures. Why? Because they are coming from a pantheistic element, right? And what I mean by pantheistic element, it comes from an element where you don't need the factual basis too much. You're using more of magic and spirit beings to carry forth the science. Okay, so this is more six ether science, but NUWAUPU does not mirror or echo six ether science. Actually, six ether science comes from NUWAUPU, which is the higher form of science. Okay, so I should have corrected ChatGPT further and let it know that NUWAUPU is actually the original science, and the six ether science is the product, or rather the death of nine ether, and then right after six ether comes religion and the religious science. Okay, so high reason interpretation. Sound right reason equals alignment with natural law. The text frames NUWAUPU as not just facts, but the method of testing information against natural law. This is essentially a call for critical thinking and self-verification, not passive reception of dogma. You see that? Critical thinking. This is what we need. All right. Male and female spirit forces. Instead of a patriarchal or singular God image, NUWAUPU posits a dual, balanced creative principle. High reasoning would see this as a cosmological statement about polarity, electric and magnetic, positive and negative, yin and yang. Scientific name disclosed when minds are qualified. This is reminiscent of esoteric traditions where higher formulas or true names of forces are given only to those prepared to use them responsibly. In modern terms, it's like advanced physics withheld until one has mastered the basics. See, I didn't really see it like that. I'm not gonna lie to you. And this is where I appreciate some of the insight that I get from ChatGPT. Why? Because in my own experience with studying Noone through the lens of NUWAUPU first, right? But they're not different, right? Because we've all come into the science through what we would call NUWAUPU, right? There's not one person here that came through the lens of Noone. Some newer people have come into the lens through Noone, but it is very what's the word I want to use? It is very it won't be a benefit if you didn't read the Bible interpretations first. So to skip the Bible interpretations to jump straight to the introduction to the nature of nature or any advanced booklets, you'll be doing yourself a disservice, because first you have to break the spell of religion. Once you break the spell of religion, then you'll be qualified to use Noone in a productive manner, as ChatGPT is saying here. So we had to pass those capability tests first, right? Once we pass the capability test, we are able to wear the name of Noone and NUWAUPU. All of us have the name NUWAUPU as a last name. So we passed those tests and we were given the right. It's almost like going through, quote unquote, that ritual that they go through in Kemet when you go into the temple and you got to learn and you got to, but we're not being put through trauma to learn this information. The only trauma that we are facing is the old life that we had to give up. You understand? That old belief system, that is something traumatic to give up, because when you're first coming into Noone and NUWAUPU, which are basically the same thing. So even if I say Noone and NUWAUPU, Noone and NUWAUPU is the same thing, okay? So when you're coming into Noone / NUWAUPU, is going to be a fear attached to it. Why? Because you're coming into something that you've never seen before. And we've been so entrained in fear when it comes to religion, especially Christianity, that when you give up Christianity, you feel like you're going to go to hell, or you're betraying you know, you're betraying God by leaving Christianity and picking up something that will be more beneficial for your life and allow you to think and reason in a much more higher standard. Okay, so with that being said, that is part of the reason why others may feel afraid to leave their religion and adopt a science such as NUWAUPU or Noone. Okay, so moving on. Takeaway of 104: practical. Don't accept claims on faith. Test them with experience, evidence, and reason. Cosmic. 9 ether equals a universal field of reason that animates woolly-haired people most strongly. Initiatory. Full knowledge of 9 ether will only be revealed to the minds disciplined enough to think clearly, entering a new cycle. Yes, this statement is true, as well as right now, not the knowledge is out there, okay, but it is very important that you read this information first, and if need be, watch all the videos as well. That will also help you because there's full breakdowns in each video, in each part of the Bible interpretations explanation. Okay. All right. Would you like me to proceed the same way for 105, scientific lens, ancient parallel, and high reason interpretation? It will build full paragraph by paragraph a noted commentary. I said yes. Okay. So here's what paragraph 105 says. Ethiopian forces, 9 ether, first rectify the mind because right action needs right thinking grounded in right knowledge. By contrast, 6 ether and ghosts, adverse forces, push woolly-haired people into self-destructive confrontation, suicide, by provoking heavily armed powers with inadequate means, feeding those adverse forces with innocent blood, sustaining the hostile system. Scientific breakdown. Primacy of cognition equals behavior. This aligns with cognitive science. Cognition precedes action. Changing outcomes requires altering mental modes, schemas, priors, and narratives. Education that improves reasoning under uncertainty, risk appraisal, and collective coordination measurably shifts behavior. Number 2, asymmetric conflict and risk calculus. In conflict studies / game theory, power asymmetry drastically increases expected harm for the weaker side in the direct confrontation. Rational strategies in asymmetry emphasize avoidance of frontal clashes, capacity building, information advantages, and coalitional leverage, not impulsive provocation. The paragraph suicide metaphor maps the catastrophic risk miscalculation in asymmetric environments, right? So basically, what these two paragraphs are saying is that when you are not in a position to win, it is basically suicide to go up against a stronger force. Okay? Meaning, the only way that you can do this is by using intelligence or using reason. Okay, so let's keep reading. Effective hijacking crowd dynamics. Social psychology shows that anger, fear, and humiliation elevate arousal and narrow attention. Amygdala the amygdala led responses, increasing risk seeking and reactive aggression in crowds, contagion, and DN I've never seen this word. The DN dividuation can further impair appraisal, leading to maladaptive confrontation, which the text portrays as being activated by adverse forces. Hold on for a second. I got to see what this word means. Give me 1 second. Let's look up this word real quick. Okay. All right. Okay, here it goes. Is a concept in social psychology that is generally thought of as the loss of self-awareness in groups. Although this is a matter of contention for the social psychologist, the level of analysis is the individual in the context of a social situation. As such, social psychologists emphasize the role of internal psychological processes. Other social scientists, such as sociologists, are more concerned with broad social, economic, political, and historical factors that influence events in such given society. So it's basically saying it's it's the loss of self-awareness within groups. Okay, so when you in a group and the group, it's sort of like what happened in this guy down in that killed all those people in Georgetown, Guyana. What's his name? Jim Jones, I think his name was.
Yeah, that's it.
Jim Jones. Yeah. So in that particular situation, I've heard the tapes. And one of the women was, fighting against Jim Jones, basically telling him like she doesn't think that this is something smart to do, to take our lives and things like that. And some people in that particular situation, they lost self-awareness and was drinking that poison, and he ended up killing over, I think, like 900 people. You understand what I'm saying? So the group, in the group, some of the people lost self-awareness. You understand? So I'm guessing that's what this word means, the de-individuation, okay, can further impair appraisal, meaning that being part of the group could help you be dumber, basically, leading to maladaptive confrontation, which the text portrays as being activated by adverse forces. Okay, so adverse forces can cause you to have this type of mentality in a situation like that. Okay. Number 4, feeding on blood as system feedback. Reading scientifically as negative resilience loops. Violent crackdowns yield trauma, fear, fragmentation, and media frames that can legitimize more repression and resource inflows to the dominant side. For example, the system metabolizes violence to reproduce itself. In public health terms, cycles of violence increase allostatic load, PTSD, and community disempowerment, which in turn reduce collective efficacy, a self-reinforcing loop. Another powerful paragraph, right? Because as Afro Unu said, this system gets stronger with negative activity, right? And also stronger from feeding on blood, right? Which leads to a negative resilience loop. Okay. Moving on. Mental fortification as intervention. Interventions that increase critical thinking, scenario planning, nonviolent strategy, and resource aggregation improve outcomes for disadvantaged groups. Organizational psychology that matches the claim that mind first is the only durable starting point for right action. Okay. So, yes, at this particular point in time, nonviolent strategy is plausible. Why? Because we don't have the tanks and the guns and the military power to go up against our oppressor. So, the best thing for us to do right now is to strategize. Okay. Economic strategy is one of the biggest and best ones that we can do at this particular point in time. Because as you see, a system such as capitalism thrives on economics. So economic strategy is what is needed in this particular point in time for us to move forward and be a stronger people. Okay. All right. Ancient historic parallels. Kemet, Ma'at versus Isfet. Egyptian cosmology frames a continual struggle between Ma'at, truth, order, right measure, and Isfet, disorder, violence, and chaos. Acting from Ma'at requires sesh, learning, and rek, knowledge, and sedem, listening, or sorry, sedgem, listening or attunement before force. Rash, emotion-driven action is isfet. It multiplies disorder and empowers the destroyer. The paragraph's message mirrors this: order the mind, ma'at, before any contest of force. Strategic restraint in African resistant traditions. Across maroon communities and anti-colonial movements, survival often began with intelligence, concealment, this is important, concealment, diplomacy, and selective engagement rather than head-on clashes. The logic: preserve life, build base, then act. A historical analog to don't feed the adverse force with blood. You see that? Initiatory disciplines, because we already know that the forces of this particular society, they feed on blood. So if you offering up your blood willingly and ignorantly, then you are doing your race and yourself a disservice. Okay. Initiatory disciplines in Nilotic and broader African initiation systems, temperance, self-control, and right speech precede communal authority. Premature aggression disqualifies initiates. Again, mental mastery equals rightful power. High reason interpretation, metaphysical mapping of psychology. 6 ether and ghost can be read as names for states / processes. Impulsivity, despair and delusion, internalized domination, forces that co-opt the mind into actions that predictably worsen conditions. Facts. 9 ether equals disciplined capacity for sound right reason that breaks that script. Facts. Number 2, ethics of means and ends. The paragraph isn't a blanket pacifism, it's a conditional ethics of efficacy, violence only where winnable and justifiable. Whoa! Never as reflex. And it's funny because Afro-Unu actually mentions that later on. We can only use violence only where it is winnable and justifiable, never as a reflex. High reason demand capability, timing, coalition, and purpose, or abstention. All right. Number 3, systems thinking. It cautions against system serving reaction. If an action predictably strengthens the very structure that harms you through justification narratives, budgetary reinforcement, or public fear, high reason labels it as counterproductive, regardless of its emotional appeal. Facts. Practical takeaway: operationalized. Mind first. Invest in education, analytical tools, media literacy, historical study, and strategic planning. Facts. Avoid asymmetric traps. Don't engage where the outcome structurally feeds the adversary. Facts. Build alternative power, infrastructure, economy, mutual aid, legal strategy, data, and alliances. Choose means that weaken the system's feedback loops, reduce its legitimacy / resources while increasing community capacity. If you like, I can package it into 1-page field guide. Nah, we're going to skip that, but we're ready to move on to paragraph 106. Let's move on to the break. Yeah, like I said, let's move on to the breakdown because it's going to keep us going with that particular paragraph, okay? So we're going to move on. 106. The solution to racial, economic, moral, spiritual, and social problems of woolly haired people is the elimination of the Negro negative and slave mentality. And that elimination will lead to right thinking and right action for liberty and equality by help of the forces of nature. There's nothing wrong with violence for our liberty and equality. You see that? If we have a chance to win. But there's no chance without our own Ethiopian spirit forces to counteract the adverse forces and show us the way to liberty and equality. And we cannot see the way until the mind's eye is open. The booklets called Bible Interpretation Explanations help open the mind's eye. You see that? You see that right here. There's nothing wrong with violence for our liberty and equality if we have a chance to win. But there's no chance without our own Ethiopian spirit forces, right? So we need forces as well to counteract this, all right? Let's go to the scientific breakdown. Elimination of negative/slave mentality equals cognitive reframing. In psychology, liberation starts with decolonizing cognition, unlearning internalized oppression, and restructuring self-concept. Paulo Freire's pedagogy, remember we researched this the other day, Tar. Pedagogy of the oppressed describes conscientization. Some of these words I haven't seen before. Okay, so bear with me. Conscientization, awareness of one's condition, and plus empowerment, which is a powerful thing, right? Neuroscience shows trauma and systemic oppression can wire the brain towards hypervigilance, learned helplessness, or maladaptive coping. Cognitive restructuring, narrative reframing, and community-based therapy can reverse these pathways. Violence conditional on winnability and strategic realism. Political science and conflict theory. Rebellion succeeds only when the resources, organization, and legitimacy reach critical mass. Otherwise, frontal conflict is suicide. Tying back to paragraph 105. No chance without spirit forces. Once again, you need the spirit force on your side too. Can be read scientifically as without morale, cohesion, collective identity, and belief in higher power. We don't use belief, but once we get the higher power, we can achieve these particular things. No group sustains resistance. Mind's eye open equals cognitive liberation. Social movement theory. Change movements begin with cognitive liberation. The belief, it's not belief. The belief that change is both possible and necessary until perception shifts. No action is sustainable. The text suggests that the booklets serve as a catalyst for perception shift. Information as a tool for mental reprogramming. Ancient historic parallels. Kemet, the eye of Horus. Once again, with the eye that Afro-Unu was speaking about, the mind's eye. Okay, the mind's eye parallels the Ujat or eye of Horus, which representing healing, insight, and restored perception. To open the eye was to see beyond deception, aligning with my eye. And I want to say the eye of Horus is also the six senses, right? So there's six senses within the eye of Horus. Is I want to say is every sense except for reasoning. Okay, so you got seeing, touching, smelling, hearing, and what's it? Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling. What is the other sense? Tasting, yes, tasting and thinking. All right, so those are the six senses within the eye of Horus and the eye of Ra. Okay, so those six senses are there, but there's a seventh sense known as reasoning. Why? Because the brain is able to reach the perception of, or not the perception, but the ability to reach gamma, which is the high altitude of thinking or reasoning. Okay. All right. So there's seven senses. We'll learn that later on, way later on. But to give you an insight, there's seven senses, and in Kemet they knew of six senses. Okay, that's why they had the eye of Horus. All right. So the initiatory traditions. In mystery schools, initiates were first stripped of illusions, purified of slave mentality. blind obedience, and fear, and only then shown sacred knowledge. Similarly, the Greek Eleusius or African initiation lodges, one must shed old self-identity before seeing truth. And similar to that, that's what I was speaking about with that fear of losing the Caucasian religion. There's always going to be a fear there. I don't care who you are. You understand? I went through that fear myself when I was stripping Christianity away from my mind. I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Is this, am I gonna go to hell? You know what I mean? It didn't last long though. It might have lasted maybe a couple hours before I was like, nah, this is where it's at, you know. But people are gonna go through that. You know, you're gonna go through that anxiety of giving up that religion. You understand? But I'm here to tell you, as well as other Noonieboos are here to tell you, you're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be okay, because it's just a deception tactic that religion uses to keep you where you're at. Okay. All right. Spirit forces and liberation. Many African liberation traditions, Maroons, Shona, and Zulu, and Dagara, invoke ancestral and elemental forces before engagement. Victory was seen as impossible without spirit alignment. Here, Ethiopian spirit forces parallels that idea. And that's a fact. We need our spirit forces on our side. We need those 9 ether forces and the positive side to the 6 ether and 3 ether forces to help us within this liberation fight that we're having right now. Okay. High reason interpretation. The real prison is mental. Slavery is framed not just as change, but as a lingering programming of obedience and dependency. To remove Negro mentality equals to free the inner architecture of thought. Number 2, right violence versus wrong violence. Not rejecting violence entirely, but elevating it to a reasoned, disciplined tool. Only valid if backed by adequate force, preparation, and spiritual alignment. Otherwise, it degenerates into wasteful sacrifice that strengthens the oppressor. Number 3, forces of nature equals universal law. High reason here says no liberation can succeed if it runs against the laws of nature. Facts, balance, timing, and polarity. Action aligned with natural cycles. 9 ether rising will be fertile. Action against them will collapse. Okay? Practical takeaway. Step 1, mental deprogramming. Engage in education that dismantles inferiority complexes and dependency conditioning, which is the Bible interpretation. This is what the education we need to engage in. Step 2, cognitive liberation. Awaken the mind's eye through knowledge, historical consciousness, and critical reasoning. Strategy. Step 3, strategic action. Don't provoke without capacity. Build spirit, resources, and networks until force becomes viable. Step 4, natural alignment. Move with the cycles of nature and collective forces, not against them. Would you like me to diagram 104, 104 to 106? Nah. Now we can move on to paragraph 107. 107, there's no solution to the problems and miserable conditions of woolly-haired people anywhere unless we have a solution that is workable everywhere. Amanubi Rakata offers all woolly-haired people a do-it-yourself solution until we get strong and united enough mentally to do what we must do together physically. All of us can do work diligently and determinately toward eliminating negative and slave mentality. And we all can do this privately without committing suicide by provoking the visible adverse forces to brutalities and atrocities against us. Reading and studying booklets known as Bible interpretations and explanations thoroughly will go through long ways toward eliminating negative forces and repelling adverse forces. And this process leads to liberty and success for the Ethiopian race in general. If we Ethiopians have free mind, we will do free things. If we have equal minds to other races, we will do equal things. Things equal or greater than other races, because our mental capacity as personifications of original creative forces are greater than that of others once our minds break prison. Freedom requires a free mind, and the responsibilities of a free mind. Equality requires an equal mind, and the responsibilities of an equal mind. Powerful paragraph. Scientific breakdown. Solution workable everywhere equals universal applicability. In systems theory, sustainable solutions must be scalable and adaptable across contexts. Local fixes collapse if they don't address structural/global dimensions. For oppressed peoples, fragmented or regional solutions can be undermined by external power centers. Hence, the emphasis on a universal mindset shift rather than just piecemeal tactics. Number two, do-it-yourself solution equals decentralized change. This reflects self-organization in complex systems. Small agents acting locally with consistent principles can create emergent global order. Psychology calls this locus of control. So this has a name for it in the do-it-yourself solution, right? Its psychology calls this locus of control, shifting from external dependence to internal agency. Research shows communities with stronger internal locus of control adapt better to adversity. Look at this. Afro-Unu was on a scientific neurological power that we didn't even know at that particular point in time. So this in psychology is called locus of control. Okay, so instead of the external dependence on systems, we have the internal agency, right? And this helps us to adapt better to adversity. And it makes sense, because if you're able to create your own business and things like that, you don't have to depend on others, right? You don't, and the adversity kind of shifts a little bit away. Why? Because you're able to make your own moves and create your own situations where the adversity will lessen or lose its power over time. Okay. Number three, privately, without provoking adverse forces. Social movement science recognizes hidden transcripts. James Scott. Oppressed groups build consciousness and solidarity quietly before confronting overt power. Neuroscience of resistance. Covert practice builds cognitive rehearsal, like training the brain before physical engagement. See, there's power in that. Number four, free mind equals free things. Equal minds equal equal things. This ties to self-efficacy. People act at a level of what they believe is possible. If the mental model says inferior, behavior manifests inferiority. If it says equal or greater, behavior follows. In education research, this is called the Pygmalion effect. What's like a pygmy? Wow. The Pygmalion effect. Expectations shape performance. Wow. I've never heard of this one before. You understand?
Yeah, me neither.
This is my second time reading it. So when I'm reading it, I'm going to act like it's my first time reading it, but it's my second time reading it. And I've never heard of the Pygmalion effect, which comes from the pygmy. That's crazy. All right. ancient, and this is why I'm appreciative of Chat GPT, because it can bring out some terms, as you've heard me say before, that I've never seen before, and it helps to expand my vocabulary. Okay, so I'm hoping it helps to expand your vocabulary as well. You understand what I'm saying?
I
So
looked it. I looked
okay,
it up real quick. It says in Greek mythology, Pygmalion was a sculptor from Cyprus who fell in love with his own ivory statue, Galatea, which he carved to embody his ideal woman. His feelings were so strong that Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, brought the statue to life. Pygmalion and Galatea are married and had a child named Paphos. The story of Pygmalion is best known from the Roman poet over his narrative poem, Metamorphosis. But it say Pygmalion effect. Okay, let's see what the Pygmalion effect is. The Pygmalion effect, or the Rosenthal effect. I think I heard the word Rosenthal before. It's a psychological phenomenon where higher expectations with others can lead to improved performance. Okay, so that's pretty much what it is. Greek myth improving in their landmark study. The self-fulfilling prophecy means that if someone is believed to have potential and these high expectations are communicated, they're likely to perform better. So it's kind of, I guess, on the basic levels like positive reinforcement.
okay, got you. All right, that's pretty dope. All right, ancient historic parallels, mystery school initiation. Egyptian initiates were taught heckin, effective words, and rek, knowledge, privately before demonstrating them publicly. The do-it-yourself path echoes that. Transformation begins internally, not with spectacle. And before we move on, remember, this is what happened to Caesarion. This is why the Jews was accusing him of using magic, because in the Egyptian schools, the effective words in essence are the magic words. So there were certain words that they can speak that had power in it, that allowed him to perform quote unquote miracles. Okay. And so these are what the effective words were, and Caesarion was punished by the Jews for doing this, because they were the only ones that were able, that was using those effective words and wielding that power at that particular point in time. But they also had the help of nature as well, right? And what I mean by the help of nature, nature was falling into descent as we are today. So that the magic words combined with the fall of nature allowed it to become the power structure that it is, and allowed them to be in the ruling seat as they are right now. All right. But that's why we were given different names to call on. And that's why I broke down just the other night about God, Christ, Lord, um, and what was the other one? It was and Jesus, right? So these etymologies we broke down yesterday, but in the full context, all of these words have power coming down the what we would call the SMAT circle of order. SMAT meaning space, matter, and time, for those who do not know what SMAT means and are here for the first time. Okay, so it's very important for us to know that the words that we're using does have magical powers. So continuously using the words like Jesus and God and thank God and Jesus, and when you do make a mistake, or you blurt something out, you say Jesus, or things like that, you are invoking the power of those particular gods. That's why the word God, by definition, in the dictionary means the invoked one, because you have to invoke the spirit of God by constantly repeating its name. over and over, okay? So I hope that we understand that. All right. So moving on. Diaspora maroonage. Enslaved Africans often built hidden schools, faith systems, and survival practices out of view of oppressors. These quiet internal acts laid the groundwork for later revolts. Okay. Stoic and Kemetic philosophy. Stoics taught that true freedom is mastery of mind. Egyptians taught that the soul, was only free when one mastered truth, which is ma'at. Both affirm the text points. Freedom equals mental condition first. Okay. High reason interpretation. Universalism is in solutions. If a solution is workable everywhere, it is grounded in universal principles, reason, and nature, rather than circumstantial fixes. That is what makes NUWAUPU. See, and they use this word NUWAUPU, and of course, I'm gonna correct it later on, but it slipped by me a couple of times. But the word is supposed to just be NUWAUPU, not NUWAUPIAN. Okay, that is what makes NUWAUPU. External truths, not temporary patches. Internal preparation versus external confrontation. The text cautions against premature exposure. High reason says don't reveal your strength until it is sufficient. Otherwise, your adversary will devour it. Wisdom equals timing. Facts. Responsibility of freedom and equality. Freedom isn't just escape from control, it brings obligations, self-governance, and discipline. Accountability. Equality isn't mimicry of others, but embodying one's full creative power. The mind prison metaphor is precise. Even if the body is unchained, without mental liberation, a person replicates their old condition. Facts. Practical takeaway. Step 1, internalize universal principles. Don't depend on partial or regional fixes. No, step 2, practice mental emancipation privately. Study, reason, discipline without feeding hostile systems. Step 3, scale up when ready. Individual free minds eventually generate collective power strong enough to act physically. Step 4, accept responsibility of freedom. Freedom means active self-discipline. Equality means active, creative productivity. All right. Moving on to paragraph 108. Okay. 108 restated. Universal knowledge called NUWAUPU informs us Ethiopians that there were 3 creations. 1, original or primary creation. 2, evolutional or secondary creation. 3, ghostational or tertiary creation. Primary creation was performed by Nine Ether, whose science is NUWAUPU. Nine Ether is the combination of all existing gases of nature. Nothing anywhere can be as powerful as all existing gases. Therefore, Nine Ether is the most potent power in the universes. Hence, Nine Ether is the original creator who grew. It's supposed to be grew all the universes. In NUWAUPU, the word creation means growth into form or system or both. And the word destruction means change in form or composition or both. Nine Ether is conscious and conscience gases. The Ethiopian race in the person of the African pygmies came along with original creation. That is, the same kind of ether forces that grew the universes also grew dwarf Ethiopians, the pygmies. Therefore, the pygmies and their evolutionary descendants are the personification of the original creative forces. To put it another way, the African pygmies created the universes in their spirit form, Nine Ether, then personified themselves as flesh and blood beings. There are two kinds of ether, 9 ether and 6 ether. 9 ether produces 6 ether, and 6 ether produces ghosts. 9 ether becomes 6 ether through time and age. 6 ether becomes ghost through time and age. 6 ether is 9 ether in death, and ghost is the death of 6 ether. After the death of 6 ether, called the moon or ghost cycle, 9 ether rises again. How much time we got?
It's 1 hour exactly.
One hour? Okay. I'm studying if we should restart and do another or come back. All right, let me wrap up paragraph 108 and then we're gonna make that determination soon, okay? All right. So the scientific breakdown for paragraph 108. The three creations as phases of energy transformation. Primary creation, 9 ether equals primordial unity of forces, equivalent to a cosmological plasma state or quantum field. Secondary creation, 6 ether, differentiation and entropy, matter and forces fragment. Systems evolve, comparable to stellar formation, biological evolution. And tertiary creation, ghost equals decay stage. Systems run down, producing weaker copies equivalent to the thermodynamic heat death process or decline of civilization. Heat death. I like that. All existing gases equals early cosmology. Ancient thinkers often describe reality as composed of gases, airs, or breaths, pneuma, prana, or ka. Scientifically, gases can stand for fundamental particles and fields, the building blocks of stars, suns, and life. The idea that the universe grows, I don't know why the word crew is there. I guess it meant to say grew, but ChatGPT pricked it up as crew. Grows mirrors modern cosmology, expansion, accretion, stellar growth, and biological morphogenesis. Number 3, creation equals growth and destruction equals change. This aligns with conservation laws. Matter and energy are not destroyed, only transformed. The text reframes creation slash destruction as continuous transformation. Facts. Ether agent into 6 agent into 6 ether, entropy law. 9 ether becomes 6 ether with time and age. High energy states degrade into lower energy, less complex forms. In physics, this is entropy increase. Ghost as death of 6 ether, ultimate dissipation, loss of structure, like gas dispersal or radiation fading, but cycles restart, similar to cosmological cyclic models. Ancient historic parallels. Kemet, Noone primordial waters equals chaotic, undifferentiated field like 9 ether. From Noone arose Atum, the first creator, who differentiated into other deities like 6 ether evolving. The cycle of Ra's nightly death and morning rebirth, ghost dying into 9 ether renewal. So this whole thing is completely false. I must say, okay? Because Noone primordial waters, yes, it would be likened to 9 ether because it would be the entire field, right, of the of 9 ether. So this will probably be the only one that's true, right? Which is the whole electromagnetic field. So it's not really water. These waters are is basically the field, the electromagnetic field, okay? And the entire field would be likened to Noone. And from Noone, 9 ether rose Atum, which would be the suns. Okay? So the suns are the first creator, right? Because the suns self-created themselves. Okay. All right. Who differentiated into deities like six ether evolving. Eventually the sun did turn into six ether, but the suns were nine ether before they were six ether, which happens to be that they self-created themselves, and they were the first creator, the creator of themselves. Okay. All right. The cycle of Ra's nightly death and morning rebirth. The ghost dying into nine ethers renewal. Yes. So the ghost dying also equals nine ethers rebirth. Okay. So that is right. So I guess there's only one statement that was wrong, which is number 2. This the six ether evolving. Okay. So Vedic cosmology, prana, life breath, and akasha, ether space, precede creation. Cycles of yuga, echo nine ether, six ether, and ghost transitions. Pygmies as originals. Many African oral traditions place pygmy peoples as the first humans, closest to the spirits and forest gods. Here are the identified. Here they are identified as personification of creative force itself. So yes, pygmy people are the first people on the planet, but these pygmies the chat GPT is probably talking about is the evolutionary pygmy, right? So the evolutionary pygmy came from the revolutionary or the original pygmy gods who had dynamos on their backs, right? Those dynamos come from the period known as the Ethiopian period. All right, and that'll be discussed way further down the line when we get to the pygmies and their biological structure and things of that nature. But I just wanted to give us a small insight to where we're gonna be headed in the near future. Okay, high reason interpretation. Three creations equals three stages of perception. Primary equals spirit consciousness, unity, potency. Secondary equals physical form and diversity, change and conflict. Tertiary equals decay of meaning, illusion, and false gods. This matches cycles of history, mind, and cosmos. Nine ether as conscious and conscience gases. Conscious equals awareness. Conscious conscience equals moral reasoning. Thus, the primal force is not just blind energy, but living intelligence. High reason sees the cosmos as purposeful, not accidental. Pygmies as archetypes of originality. By saying pygmies are embodiments of nine ether, the teaching elevates them as living symbols of primordial creation, reminding that ancient humanity is divine humanity. Practical takeaways. Reality unfolds in three cycles: potent unity, fragmentation, decay, and your renewal. Woolly haired people via nine ether embody the renewal force. After ghost dies, they rise again. To align with this power, understand creation as growth, destruction as transformation, and recognize original humanity as a living reflection of cosmic forces. Mental resurrection equals tapping into nine ethers conscious and conscience to renew civilization. All right, so that's the end of this particular part of the discussion. We'll start with 109 at a different time, which will probably be tomorrow because I am getting tired. But that is the first one um to begin. And what do the Noone Boos think about that particular breakdown about what is NUWAUPU and some of the breakdown that the chat GPT was giving as it pertains to that?
Well, the most positive thing. Oh, let me sit up right. That I found that was very powerful and is needed for us to know as a race of people because and what I found that was more potent was that as a race, violence is only meant to use if we think we can win, if we know we can win. and basically and have those positive and negative spirit adverse forces to counteract their, for our protection. That's very powerful because you have a lot of individuals that's just reacting and not thinking out their reaction. Um, it's my thing is like it's a way to deal with certain situations other than just reacting on something so tedious or of that sort. So yeah, I find that real powerful, and for us all to know. And then maybe I ain't no maybe, but we really would stop getting into trouble, and by reacting and not having those that information to counteract those other negative forces, as
Mhm.
for protection.
Correct. That's good. That was an amazing breakdown as always. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same wave. I think that even though the first time we dealt with NUWAUPU was like we was way back in the past,
Mm-hmm.
filling in the holes of what that it was a like you pointed out was an active science. That part of NUWAUPU was more so with our ancestors. NUWAUPU at this time is very different
Mm-hmm.
because it's telling them, and it's pretty much where we at right now. Like, don't get yourself killed because of the agitation of the forces. Because we in judgment zone, and
Mm-hmm.
with and these forces need blood. So when you was talking about the chat was talking about the blood and the sacrificing, they don't realize that's what this is. Like their minds can't see that what you're doing is being set up as a scapegoat, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
willing scapegoat. And what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing is you're strengthening the forces of Dracula of the blood spilling. And that's how I was talking
Mm-hmm.
to somebody about. I think today, one of the teachers I work with, and I was explaining that to her too, and about the consistency of why they have to keep why Israel is still killing these people back to back. Because I said those forces that they're secret part of the Torah and all the people, the rabbis and Zionists, they are conjuring, and they have to do so much blood shedding periodically. And every time we see something like an October the 7th or 9/11, etc., these people are watching the skies and the zodiacs, and they know exactly when to do stuff. That's every time, and you know it's true because every time an event happens,
Mm-hmm.
videos will come out and say, "Oh yeah, see this? The number 33 keep appearing." You know,
Mm-hmm.
the sniper was 333 yards away, and it happened at 3:33. And you see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And the
Right.
guy was 33 years old. So the fact that they can pinpoint that shows you that the people who performed it was very aware of all of that and then some. And
Yep.
so that's how we know that everything, like the book was saying, even in the chat was responding, that everything have to happen with mental elevation and plus timing. And the most important thing, you gotta have your spiritual power on your side. The
Yep.
spiritual power that they align with, which Alpha says in the book, you gotta change your spiritual allegiance,
Mm-hmm.
which is the sun forces,
Mm-hmm.
because everything else they dealing with is either earth forces or ghost forces or moon forces,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to help them. And using the names God, Jesus, and all that, whether it's serious or in a joking form, all they're doing is powering up those forces. And like you said, suicide. They got our people out here running out here, especially the young people are killing themselves or getting killed because they can't take it, because they're stressed, and those stressors and the spirit being is stressing them out, and they already feel helpless and hopeless, and the church and stuff doesn't help them. Because the church doesn't deal with food, shelter, and clothing, except for the pastor, because the pastor is like the government. He like the president. The church is the government, and it's broken up, and they're sucking all the money out of the economy called the congregation, and he's keeping it to himself. He lives good and tell them, "You get yours when y'all die." And so these spells on top of spells, and that's what we hope that people, eventually will wake up to and realize that, stop putting the target on your back and start running out here trying to join, Black Lives Matter, and that's not the case. It's, your mind matters. And having correct information, knowing when and when not to do. I was seeing today too on YouTube that they said that Traore has shut down people coming back to the country right now. They don't think it's safe, and they don't want people from the diaspora coming in at this moment in time. Because I felt that same way too when I was watching him months ago, and he had a lot of so-called Pan-Africans over around him. I'm like, that's for them. It's just I just felt a little off about it.
Yeah,
because I think it's still too early. I think that what we're doing in the next 42 months, it'll shift things more. Right now, people is still not understanding. Like, they know we're in a danger zone, but they don't know how the religion plays a part into it. And this is why we're trying to tell people that you can't change the movie script, but you can give the script back and say, you know what, I don't want to act out this part of Revelation chapter 13, what they doing over there in UK. Oh, you're not gonna take this digital ID, then you can't work. And so Sound Right Reason and Noone is giving us the opportunity to get out of the script, which is religion, because that's exactly what's taking place. Is that religion is already set up to kill as many people and sacrifice to the gods as necessary. And people pretty much know they facing death, but they don't know there's no way out. Like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, a lot of these people are standing up to Israel, and they know that they're risking life and limb, but they don't know what else to do. They all think that, yeah, God gonna protect me. And I'm pretty sure that Kirk thought the same thing until he wasn't. So you playing around with the moon god in Christianity, you don't know. You hope, but it's a law, a great chance of you not being protected. And when you lose your life, they're gonna find some excuse to say what happened instead of God failed that person. Is what. So that's what I took out of everything that was said tonight, is that this is an opportunity to reason your way out until the time is right, to where we're strong enough physically. And that's what we're going through now. Right now, the spell got to be broken in the next 42 months in order for people to get out of religion and let those people be who they are, because that's all it is. They just been spellbound to be used for fodder, cannon fodder for religion to do its final act. And that's what they're doing right now. It's a casting call. You know, they calling all religious idiots to come on in to be scapegoats so they can finish, you know, acting. And that's pretty much what that is. You know, we just telling them, you know, it is one movie script y'all haven't looked at. And it's called reality. It's called Sound Right Reason. You know, this is what it is. This is what all of these books talk about but didn't know. And it's here. We've been protected. Now this is protection what we got.
Yes.
Because we was able to survive York and all these other preachers and alien religions and gangs and jail, all that stuff.
Yes.
That's the real protection. So your mind can be like Chat said, giving your mind time enough to generate correct information. So you can, like Anu said, and me too. When I start getting away from religion, like when I got out of Islam, I think one of your books pushed me out of Islam was 360 Questions Asked a Sunni Muslim. This book, they don't make those no more, but it was real thick. And it had a picture of the Kaaba and stuff on the front. And so I got out of that. And I was like wondering, is something going to happen to me? Because I stopped praying because I seen something was off. Like I didn't understand Arabic and all this other stuff, but I had enough reasonability to realize that the book brought enough doubt for me to leave it alone. And even after I got through that stuff and left that alone with York stuff into, you know, between 2008 and 2010, I started reading the BIAE and all that in order and the nature books that I got in 2008. So from that point, reading them back to back, then going through Destiny and Wing Makers after that, and some of the alien stuff and other different things, about 2013 is when I said, all right, it's time to rearrange and do some things. And that's when I just started filtering out and kicking this stuff out. And eventually your mind will respond. The spirit in your mind will be like, you sure you want to do that? You know you're supposed to be praying now. You know, the spirit starts suggesting things because it wants to keep you stuck in fear. Because religion means to be bind and afraid. So once you go through that, and that I'm glad Anu touched on that, that's the thing that you're gonna have to face is the spirit being is gonna kick out all those things. And you have to ask yourself why you going through that. It's like it's like going cold turkey off of drugs. You know, you're gonna be yearning out, but you stay there and you soldier through it, and you ask yourself, well, where was you at when I was going through all these trying times? The spirit was there the whole time. It never helped you.
Yeah.
But when you try to leave the oppressor, all of a sudden the spirit got words.
Yeah.
You're gonna start hearing voices and suggestions and dreams. You know, stay here, my child. All of a sudden, Jesus gonna show up in your dream. You know, wearing gold chains, and you know the lamb gonna have their hair braided. You know, it's the hood. You know, you want to stay here. This is where it's at. Jesus gonna be black. It's gonna be anything the spirit think it can use to keep you under that pressure. So tonight was a beautiful reminder, and it went in a whole different direction. You know, it gave you this, and again, like the book said, once they learn and break away with the BIA, they'll be worthy for the, like you said, the capability test. That the first is just getting the books. Once nature get the information to you, you got to read it, and then it got to make sense. And then you say, you know what, I'm gonna go further with it. You know, I'm gonna accept it. Then I'm gonna start practicing it. Then I'm gonna start spending. And from that point, you have passed the first level. And those capability tests are non-stop. They periodically come when it's time to renew your license. We all done went through these circumstances together and separate. And those capability tests, they become more and more challenging and not complicated, because nature books tell you don't let nothing, you know, in a paraphrasing, don't let nothing, you know, cause you fear about Noone. Don't let nothing, you know, confuse you. And so that's where we passed that now. Like we passed the confusion. So we understand, but only thing we can do is do what we're doing now, is giving y'all way more than what we had. And that's how we, like the book say, serving NUWAUPU is serving one another. We don't serve NUWAUPU like the bottom half have to serve the gods and their many minions. NUWAUPU says you want to serving us is serving each other. And that's different. NUWAUPU is opposite, versus it makes them serve other people that's self-serving, that don't care about them. And that's pretty much what a savior cycle is, versus a sun cycle, because the sun cycle is liberating and the sun shines on all, good, bad, and ugly. So, but anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
No, that was a very good and intense breakdown as well. You know, that right there kind of summarized and encapsulated, you know, everything in there, as well as what the ChatGPT was doing as far as the scientific breakdown and certain words, and even like the locus of I forgot what it said about that locus one with the do-it-yourself solution. That was a pretty good one as well. So, you know, I'm getting like a re-education as well, as far as the mundane aspect of knowing how Afro-Unu put this together. You know, maybe some of these things haven't even existed as yet, and modern science kind of pieced it together after the fact. You know, but either which way, we are meeting the people where they're at, by giving them mundane science mixed with nature science. But just know that, you know, even though you're getting the mundane aspect, we need to all move over into Noone slash NUWAUPU. You know, I'm a little tired. It's like 1 a.m. You know, so usually I'll just be like, let me knock out 2 or 3 more, but I already see myself getting a little more tired, so I don't want to, you know, read on a tired mind. So I'll be a little bit more refreshed tomorrow, to maybe do about 1 or 2 more shows. But this is the last question in the BIAE, and this is coming down to the breaking of the spell, completely using the Chat GPT and the mundane science and research aspects. So yes, this is an exciting time in history to be a part of something so great.
Yes.
Because we are part of greatest science, and I'm not saying that as an ego or anything of that nature. I'm saying it because it is the greatest science that this planet has ever seen. And I challenge anyone out there, anyone, not to a debate, but I challenge anyone out there to prove that this science isn't the greatest science out there. So that's my challenge to anyone out there, to prove that this science isn't the greatest science out there. So you could bring whatever religion you want, and we could put it to the test, and we will show you that Noone slash NUWAUPU is the greatest science that has ever touched the planet. And we as Nooney are in the greatest position to operate in the new cycle to come. Okay? And that's my spill. And once again, I'm a Bunu Nupu. I am one of the representatives of Noone and Nupu that was brought to us by our great messenger, Afro Unu Nupu. And I hope everybody have a peaceful shadow hour, and we will reconvene in the next sun cycle day. Okay.
Right.
Right.
Yes.